Hi everyone, it's RAXX bringing you the Rank 1 North America Hardcore Monk Clear as we move our way toward 150. Unfortunately, on the very first day, we had the tragic disconnect death where I DC'd and I logged back in and was dead, and it really set me back. It came at a really bad time. I lost all the gear that I had. I lost the gems that I had just leveled up. Had to essentially restart the season. But we are climbing our way back up, and it feels good to be back in first place. Let me take you through how we got this clear, and maybe I can give you some tips and tricks on what may help you in pushing your monks. So first of all, with the monk build here, you have so many damage multipliers that you can either activate or not activate on any given hit. And obviously, hitting them all together is what's going to make the entire world die, versus if you miss some of them, you'll notice that sometimes you just don't do any damage. And sometimes, by the way, it's not your fault at all. I have some hits where I do everything perfectly. I press fire allies and they just do no damage. They just don't hit for some reason. So if that ever happens to you, don't worry, it happens to everybody. Sadly, it's just a part of the build. But let's think about what multipliers are actually going on here. So the most obvious one is convention of the elements, right? You see that little element thing ticking, it's in fire right now. We are going to fire our allies every time in the fire cycle. That's the most obvious one. That's what we base our entire DPS rotation around. So then the next big one is Shenlongs. And they have fixed Shenlongs, so it's really quite easy to use, especially since your attack, pressing Mystic Allies, activates your air ally, which gives you 100 spirit. So literally attacking with your ability on fire cycle will either A, trigger your Shenlongs, or it should, or B, if your Shenlongs is already active, it will sustain it through the attack. So that part is pretty much given to you for free. But then there are some other things that become trickier. Let's start with the Oculus Ring. So you'll notice when you press your Mystic Allies, the first ally that explodes should trigger an Oculus Ring, right? These allies, especially when you have a lot of density, don't always explode at the same time. So ideally what you would do is, in fire, you'd press your ally, and the second you see an Oculus Ring, you dash into it. That's the ideal setup. See what I did right there? I pressed it and I dashed in. Sometimes you'll get no value out of it. Sometimes your Mystic Allies will delay their attacks and you'll get a huge hit out of it. Now, one thing before we keep talking about multipliers that I want to point out here is, do you notice how I have that channeling pylon right there? In general, with this build, whenever I spawn a pylon, if I have a big open map like this, I just ignore it. And I'm just going to go around and I'm going to pull all of the elites to that pylon. I would have done the same if it was a power. I would have done the same if it was a shield. I would have done the same if it was a speed. Like any pylon. I'm bringing them all to the pylon because the pylons will help us, no matter what they are, kill the elites. So notice how I'm just running around dragging them to the pylon before I click it. Channeling, in this case, will just spam Mystic Ally and hit him a bunch of times. I strongly encourage you to do the same in your pushes. So back to the multipliers. We talked about COE, we fire in fire cycle. We talked about Shenlongs, we get our spirit to max once we're in fire cycle, and pressing Mystic Allies will do most of the work for you. Then we talked about after you do a hit, see how I jump into that Oculus Ring. If you have a delayed fire explosion, it's going to deal way more damage. And then we have Flying Dragon. And unfortunately, there is no great way to know whether Flying Dragon is up or not. It's chance on hit to double your attack speed. There are some try-hard ways that you can do this. What you could do is you could open your inventory and look at your sheet damage. And when you see your sheet damage magically go way higher, you'll know that Flying Dragon is up. And you can just, I don't know, If you have the eyes of a hawk, I guess you could tell that you're just punching way faster. But when I'm in huge density, I can't tell what's going on. Another way you might be able to tell is with your spirit generation. If you're punching and you're generating spirit much faster than normal, Flying Dragon is up. So why does Flying Dragon being up matter or not? Well, obviously you hit way harder when Flying Dragon is up, but how do we use this knowledge to our advantage? Well, let me give you an example. Keep in mind that Fire Cycle, when you're going to press your Mystic Allies, it has a duration, right? You don't have to press your Mystic Allies right at the very beginning. You can wait a second or two into fire before pressing it and still get the damage off in fire, right? So if I'm going through the elements and cold is coming and my Flying Dragon just procced as cold is starting, this is telling me that my Flying Dragon is going to fall off right about the time that Fire Cycle starts. So that information would tell me that I need to press my Mystic Allies like as early as possible in fire. That way I also get Flying Dragon. On the other end, let's say you're entering cold and Flying Dragon's not up and you're punching, and it's still not up and fire's just starting. You might wait a second and try to get a couple extra punches in and try to YOLO and spawn that Flying Dragon proc just to get that huge extra damage, and you'd fire at the end in that case. So that's a very try-hard method you can use to get some extra damage. As you can see, I'm not really doing that. I'm way too lazy to do that. I wish there was just a Flying Dragon indicator on my bar, but that's not a thing. The final thing is the dregs of lies. Do you see that number that's currently counting down, 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 and then it goes up, 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 and then down and down and down? Well, the closer that you fire that to 100, the more damage that you deal. It goes up whenever your ally is melee. When it gets to 100, it drains very quickly. So when I'm entering Fire Cycle, I take a look at that number. If that number is like very, very high, like 90 or above, I fire instantly. And if it's not, if it's very low at like 20, I'll wait and let it stack up a bit and then fire. So anyway, real quickly, let's look here. We didn't get a Condi last map, but I have the Condi here. So I'm going to try a very tricky play. I'm going to go backwards here, and I'm going to zap these elites. And then I'm going to try to kill both of the yellows in separate rooms with this Condi. So the next yellow that we're going to encounter is like at full health. So I'm looking at my COE timer, and my fire is nowhere close. So I'm going to be here zapping him, and I'm going to try to hit him with my Fire Cycle right here and try to destroy him, and then quickly jump over the wall and finish the last yellow. So here's fire right now. We attack, it one-shots him, jump back over the wall, try to finish these guys. And this is probably the play that made this clear so easy, was this quad kill with the yellows. Pretty good right as the Condi expires. So let's put all this into action and let's see how these hits actually go. Okay, so I move up here. I'm looking for anything to hit. All right, I see I'm in lightning. I've got some time. By the way, the last thing is the Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose. So you have to stand still for a while. So notice how I'm standing still. My count is at 67. I press it and I jump into the Aki. I mean, it happens so fast, it's kind of hard to describe. But let's see it one more time here. So I'm going to try to stand still for a while. I'm looking at my dregs little numbers here, which they're only at 8 right now. Then you press Mystic Ally, and you should have jumped in the Aki, but there were only like 5 monsters there, so they were going to die no matter what. That elite, I'm not interested in. We're just going to keep on moving forward. Let's see what we can do here. So this is physical, so stand still. Build up your Traveler's Pledge. Fire and jump into the Aki when you see it. Clearly, I'm too lazy to do that. That's what I should have done. I probably have such a lead right here that I just don't care anymore. And by the way, you're going to notice this build is really good on the boss. So I think this is the first time a Dark Berserker has hit me. And I actually survived it, which is a miracle. So that kind of scuffed that hit right there. Let's practice one more time. Here we go. So we're in lightning right now. So it's then physical, then cold. I'm entering cold with 70 stacks. So this is good. So this hit will be very, very good with the Dregs of Lies. I got feared. Cyclone, attack. Try to move into the Aki. They got in my way. And we're on to the final map. No problem. I don't need to take any risks here. Barring a super bad boss, we should be fine here. Notice how I'm standing still. No problem that my Shenlongs is already up. Activate it. Jump into the Aki. The whole world died. Easy. Now we're just going to peek forward and see if we have a Condi. It doesn't look like, or not a Condi, any Pylon I meant. And here we go. Here comes cold. Stand still. Stack up your Traveler's Pledge. Let it rip, and they're all dead. And maybe on hardcore, you guys maybe aren't using Traveler's Pledge, and that's fine. But if you are using Traveler's Pledge, you got to stand still. And Choker is just all about stacking Stricken. It's the same exact strategy on the boss. So here we go. I'm checking to see if Flying Dragon is up. It looks like it is, because I have 14 million sheet. Shenlong's is up. And we took away a quarter of his health already. Easy mode. Dodge his big scary attacks. Now here, unfortunately, all my dreg stacks are getting drained in cold, so it would be advantageous to wait here. I let them stack up. See how late in fire I hit there? It's because I wanted to wait and give them a little bit more of a chance to stack up. So here we go. Attacking Choker again. Unfortunately, it's draining right now, so this is going to be a scuffed hit no matter what. Very, very bad hit there. Feels bad, but sometimes it just doesn't line up. The only way you could really manipulate that is if you ran away and got your allies to stop attacking. But it looks like they're going to start draining right now in cold again. So we're just in a very bad sync right here. But that's okay. With this much time left, we will be fine. But I just want to point out some of the things that you can look for while you're doing this. And of course, it's much more important to have Flying Dragon than the drag stacks. So here we are. I'm waiting. I don't see Flying Dragon. Try to jump in the Aki for some extra damage. And this is going to do it, guys. Finally got back to rank 1. Anyway, I hope this little discussion helped you. We're on our way to 150. Hopefully that video will come very soon. I hope you guys are having a great time with the monk, and more to come. Thank you.